This one will be uphill both ways. Welcome to The Big Puzzle. In this podcast, we explore the subtle connections between science, religion, politics, economics, and history. One piece at a time, we unveil the big picture of this shared experience that we call life. So I was starting to reply to a message from Finbar in LinkedIn, and while I was thinking what to write, I was reminded of some other conversations that I had these last few days with different people like Selene and Adam and many others, and started to see some connections. So I said, well, maybe I should, instead of writing, I should record a video connecting some pieces of the puzzle. But this is mostly for you, Finbar. The rest of you can stay and listen. You can always comment and change my mind. I try not to make this a video about the good old days. I believe in progress. I enjoy progress. I enjoy technology. I did all my life. I'm not conservative for conservation's sake, but I really despise two things. The first one is malice, and the second one is incompetence. Stupidity, but one particular kind of stupidity, that is the willful stupidity. And you would argue, well, that's a variation of malice, right? But so let me tell you what I'm thinking about. In the introduction, I mentioned, going uphill both ways, and these people that say, oh, when I was young, I would go to school in the snow, uphill both ways, and kind of things are so easy now. And I didn't have to go uphill at all. My city was the flattest city on the earth. So, but what I'm trying to point out is that we're making things easier and easier. That's creating a problem. A big problem. Why? Because pain has its purpose. Right? We talk in another video about how pain is a warning. It's telling you, hey, you need to take care of this. That's about the physical pain, but also intellectual pain. We need to go through intellectual pain to make changes. There's no way around that. Connecting to the previous video, talking about the mind, when we're learning, we're rewiring our mind. And that takes effort. We have to weaken and we have to destroy some old connections, and we need to create and strengthen other connections. So we need repetition, we need consistency, we need a lot of effort to achieve that. There's no shortcuts. As an example, I can tell you, for instance, I had a 5-year streak in Duolingo trying to learn Hebrew, and I don't think I can communicate with anybody. I don't even remember how to say where's the bathroom, which is the most basic thing that you need to say in another language. So it was fun, it was entertaining, I felt I was learning, but it was not hard, so nothing stuck. And anything that is supposed to teach you by games or by, it's not working, it's not stuck. But the problem again is that we're moving away from doing things the hard way. In one of the conversations that I had this week, I realized something. So if I look back to all the videos that I created for this channel so far, most of them talk about things that I learned in the first half of my life. I'm 54 now, so you could say, well, my first 27 years of life, pretty much. And I started wondering why. It's not like I stopped learning. I always try to keep learning, but why things from my youth stuck more than things that I've been studying recently. And I think it has to do with the internet. When I was talking to Selene earlier this week, and I was telling this my story, right, and everybody's story back in the day. So if you had a question, the example I put is, okay, I saw a plane at the airport, and I saw that the plane had some device, outside, whatever, and I don't know what it was. So that triggered my curiosity. If I wanted to know what it was, I had to wait, get home, keeping that memory in my memory, right? What is that thing that I saw? What is that thing that I saw? And then I will go to an encyclopedia, look for planes, look for aerodynamics, look for different things, and try to find if I could find what that thing was. If I couldn't find it, and again, I was still curious, I would have to go to a library, and I would have to talk to a librarian and ask advice about which books could lead me to that answer. So eventually I could, reach, that's a pitot tube, right? And it's used to measure velocity by calculating the static pressure and the dynamic pressure of the air because of this and that, right? After all that effort, it's very likely that gets stored in my mind. My brain is saying, hey, you took a lot of effort to learn this. Make sure that we keep it. We don't want you to have to go through this again just because you forget things. And pretty much everything that you learn had that, but also had this other effect that is you learn to prioritize. Because we could have questions about a lot of things, but we have limited time, limited resources. So you had to say, is this interesting enough to, figure it out or not? So that was part of the prioritization. Say, okay, what is worth learning and what is not worth learning? Now, I'm an early adopter. And I connected to the internet for the first time in 1996 after a trip I made. I was working in a project for my university, and I was working in geographic information systems, and we went to MIT because so collaboration, my university with MIT, so we went there, and everybody I met there was, what's your email? What the heck is that? So when I came back, the first thing I got was an internet connection and an email. And actually I built with my cousin the first website for our city. And obviously we got broke before the internet became a thing, so I'm very good at timing. But I was an early adopter, and I saw so much potential. For me, it was ridiculous. I had access to people around the world. I had access to libraries, to pretty much everything. And it was a game changer. And I learned a lot, and I studied a lot, and I used it a lot. But with things becoming easier, it also became easier to forget for two reasons. First, you didn't put the effort, so now the brain say, okay, that was not that hard, maybe you can do it again if we need it. So it won't put the effort to store those concepts in your mind. But so that's basically the first effect that you see. But also it was very conscious. I knew that I could find it again. The internet will ever be there. So I knew I could go back and find what I was looking for. So the other thing that I mentioned in the past is I'm not a developer in the sense that I never got a computer science degree or anything, but I've been writing code since 1983. And I think I mentioned also this, my first computer that my father brought from the United States to Argentina, I'm pretty sure it was 1983. I'm trying to calculate when we moved and things like that, and when I first saw that computer. It was a Texas Instrument 9948. And the thing was that you had it didn't have storage, it didn't have a hard disk or any way to store, so when you wanted to run a program, you had to write it again. If you turned off the computer, the program that you wrote in BASIC would go away. We received some magazines that had games, for instance, and I never had the patience to do that, but my oldest sister, she would sit down and copy line by line, all the program, and then we could play that game until, we had to turn the computer off. And back on those days, I think we had some program power outages. So sometimes you were in the middle of something and, you would lose everything. But, and since then, I always did things related to computer science. And I've been programming, and I programmed in many different languages. And one thing that I had to do several times in my life was to basically rewrite my code from one language to another. For many, many years, my main language was Lisp, just because I was working with AutoCAD, and AutoCAD has that version of Common Lisp that is called AutoLisp. So I wrote a lot, and then I did some things in C and C++ and C# and Python and JavaScript and Java, and so many times I had to rewrite what I created, and I realized there was a lot of value, because when I was rewriting, I found mistakes. I worked a lot with algorithms, and particularly geometric and geographic algorithms. And then when I was rewriting something, I realized, I never covered this edge case. So luckily never had a problem in the past, but I realized, this would be divided by 0, right? Or things like that. So by rewriting my code many times, I learned, and I kept, my mind sharp, my skills honed. So I try to do that. And nowadays, when I need to start a new project for my work, and again, I'm not a developer, I'm more of a data scientist now, sometimes I start from the scratch, and I know it will take me longer. I know it will take me probably one more day of work than just copying and pasting something that I did in the past. But I take it like part of my training, part of my learning, part of me being, on top of things, and not just copying and pasting just for the sake of, doing things faster. Because in the long run, it's not faster. And to Finbar in particular, I was telling him about, I don't remember the words that I used, but it's kind of getting in the zone. And I will tell you one example. It was 1993, and I was studying for construction engineering, and I was very interested in AutoCAD, like I mentioned. So it was my first approach to AutoCAD was in 1993. So I bought a book, this thick. I got I don't know, you shouldn't confess your crimes, but let's say I got a very cheap AutoCAD, AutoCAD 10, and I started learning, right? I'm practicing, and the last chapters were about AutoLisp. So since I didn't know how to program, I learned AutoLisp, and I started building things. But the interesting thing that happened to me, the GUI for AutoCAD was very, very limited. It was command prompt, and on the side you had some commands that you could click. I can't remember exactly. So I got very, very proficient at the keyboard. So I could do pretty much everything in AutoCAD with just the keyboard. It was very distracting when I had to leave the keyboard and move my hand and grab a mouse and click on something and then coming back. It felt like I'm breaking the zone, right? So, and still today, I haven't used AutoCAD in many years, but still today I feel I have that muscle memory, that if I sit down, I could, get in the zone by using the command prompt instead of the more elaborated GUI. But AutoCAD got new versions. And in those new versions, they incorporated buttons, very nice buttons all around, and you configure them. And everybody was kind of clicking the button, clicking here, writing, clicking. For me, that was awful. Everybody say, well, it's ridiculous that you're writing when you can just go and click a button, but not for me. I mean, I had developed the ability to interface with the program, at that, now we will call it low level. It was not low level, right? It was just a different way. And then AutoCAD started even hiding the command prompt. So now if you want to fill some numbers or whatever, you had to go to this, wherever you were and click there and write it in those places. So it really made it harder for me. What I'm saying with all of this? Well, I think that AI, I always do the quotation mark, because this is not intelligent. LLMs are kind of destroying the ability and the skills for many, many people. And they don't realize that, right? So it's easier now to say, oh, LLM, build this, build that. So how would I explain it? You probably heard about the 10,000 hours. It says, this is theory that says it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in something, either in sports, in any field, in music. You need to spend 10,000 hours to become, the best you can be in that discipline. But what usually is not mentioned is that it's really lifelong. If you stop practicing, if you stop learning, those skills immediately atrophy, right? So they become worse and worse and worse. And that's the self-induced suicide, career suicide, that, I know that YouTube doesn't like that word, whatever. I'm not getting monetized not, in any way. But people are just willing to lose those skills, and they don't realize that what they're doing, right? So my advice to people is keep doing things the old way. Keep writing using your fingers. Don't even copy and paste. Don't go to Stack Overflow when Stack Overflow is disappearing because, AI stole everything and now they killed it in the process. Socialism of knowledge for you. But if you develop that, if you are good, if you get in the zone, you will be top tier, right? The bubble will burst, the high will fade, and who will be standing there? Well, the ones that didn't fell in the trap of AI and didn't fall in this trap of, if I present myself as the AI guy, when they do the downsizing, they will say, oh no, look, he's 10 times more productive. Let's make sure that we keep him. It's not going to work like that. You're going to be mediocre. You will be writing mediocre, buggy codes. Hallucinations are not going away unless there's a breakthrough, but you cannot count on a breakthrough, right? The breakthrough might happen today or never, right? If we're stuck with LLMs, we're stuck with hallucination. And that means for code, basically bugs, an inefficient way to do things. So if you're not really skilled, and I'm not saying don't use it at all, but use it very mindful. So going back to the 10,000 hours, if you're a pianist and you are very good, you can play Rachmaninoff, would you hire, or put a robot to play for you? And then when the parts that the robot cannot play, you step in and you play yourself. How long do you think that you will have the skills to play it if you just let the robot do it for you? It's clear that you need to go there. So take the keys in the keyboard as the keys in the piano key, right? It's your practice, it's your memory. Yeah, every time that you click, I hope that you're not clicking with one finger, but every time that you click, you're connecting your mind to your fingers, to the computer, to what is going on. And if you're not a computer programmer, this concept still applies. So curiosity has to mature. Curiosity needs time. Like I say, the question about the pitot tube in a plane, right? I had to have it several hours in my mind. I had to spend several hours more learning about it, so I could get that answer. With AI, if you have a question, basically you grab your phone, you ask the question, you satisfy your curiosity that hasn't grown, hasn't developed, and you're killing it. So if you're using AI to answer your questions, you will never learn absolutely anything. That's the truth. So I'm moving away from using AI, even from trivial things, and I'm very mindful when I do use it, and try to make things harder, artificially harder for me. I was telling Selene, you probably should only use your internet to answer those questions in a certain room in your house. Let's say the bathroom. So you have a question, okay, don't go to your phone, even if it's not AI, even if it's just Googling. Well, create your own version of the physical encyclopedia, right? And instead of using Google, get some, I don't know, I guess that the Encyclopedia Britannica, what is that, the name? Well, I guess they do have, an app. So use that in your phone by a certain place. So you force yourself to let your curiosity mature. People would say, oh, but yeah, things are easier now, so we should be able to do more. I was surprised by something that I learned recently. One of the reasons we cannot come back to the moon, because people say, well, why don't we just rebuild the Saturn V rockets? If we did it in the 60s, why couldn't we build it now? I mean, it worked. And the explanation was that there were some technicians, in particular, I remember talking about some welders that were so specialized and were so good at their craft that they were essential. And I think the other thing had to do with the spacesuits as well, that they were struggling to find people with the skills to build the spacesuits like they were at that time. But the welders, for sure, they couldn't. We don't have any more of those welders. They all died or retired. And that's why we cannot rebuild something that we built, in the 60s. And yeah, we're losing a lot of skills, and we're losing our minds quite literally. So, okay, this has been long enough. I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. I'd be interested in hearing your feedback. If you disagree, prove me wrong, change my mind. I'm always willing to learn. So that will be it. See you in the next one. Bye.